It's a lot different. I started working on these hearings 10 years ago. Trying to talk to legislators and say, hey, we need to relook at this. And that was 3 years before privatization. And then, people, the advocates, there was some good journalism that was done when the privatization came in. And most of the advocates at that point said, knowing who the others are going to do very little on the part of the civil cases. And they cherry picked it and made it a flat service contracts.
The other thing is the 40 program gives 40 years in any state the ability to close this. Just close it. Like if they can't locate the person, they can close it. If the person is disabled in any way they can't collect, they just close it. Well, what if that person lays low? You've closed it, nobody's looking at it. Maintenance only cases. DCF going on. Work.
This is my vice chair. I saw representative.
Where DCF cannot touch the case because it's a maintenance only case. Spouses
I agree with you about a fuller explanation, a new dictionary here.
We always need to just take an extended case and say, here's how it starts, here's our district, here's how it flows.
25 years
Thanks for
ago.
the insight.
Yeah, because one of our things was the history. The history.
Yeah.
But 25 years ago is a long time.
Yeah.
They need to do another one.
Like, I hope we fix these problems.
Yeah. All right.
Do away with this today.
You're out in the hallway. Please come in. I saw Francis come around the corner and then Owsley's just wandering around. I said 7 minutes and we're at 10. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I know. I'm about ready. I saw a couple out in the hall. Oh, Margaret is online? Okay, we got enough.
Someone's hovering by the door.
Hey, we're getting going.
I wonder how high they jumped.
That's the way to call me.
There you go.
Sorry.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shannon. All right, are we on, Nancy? All right, we're back online. Committee, here's what we're going to be discussing here in maybe the next hour or two, depending on which direction this goes. I did talk to leadership. If we get stuck and we need too much information, we could get another day. But as everyone knows, our calendar is already crowded going into session. In fact, it feels like we never left session. So it is a possibility that we could meet one more time if we needed to. But if we can get some recommendations out there, requests for information, then what we would do is agree upon those recommendations, any request for information, and that would be put into a report that you would see. As you all know, you've probably all been on interims, that you would see and have the opportunity to accept or not accept, and then we would be finished with our work. So at this time, we're going to open it up for requests for information, more information, and keep in mind, if this is our last meeting, even though you're requesting for more information, that information can be part of the report as well as we receive it. So, committee members, questions, comments? Did you have your hand up? Senator Holscher.
Yeah, I'm curious about, this was discussed earlier as far as what exactly we would need to put in place as far as handling those out-of-state cases where we seem to have some issues. And just to clean up that system right now that we have that seems to be causing so many problems. And as far as practicalities, I think we talked about it a little bit before, but I probably feel like I need a little bit more specifics on what that looks like and the complexities associated with doing that.
System of collecting from another state, from an individual from another state, the complexities of that. Okay, Chardell is sitting there typing, I see. What's that? Charday, sorry. She knows why I say it that way. Charday. Okay, so out-of-state collections, complexities of that, and perhaps what other states are doing to overcome that. And if any statutes needs to be changed in order to get across that hurdle. All right, anything else? Representative Francis.
Yeah, I wish the administration or DCF could really do a deep dive on what successful states are doing that we're not. You know, are there legislative changes we need to make? I guess that would be one. So I guess that's more a recommendation. I don't think they can get that information together in a quick time. And then just another comment for possibly later is I really, again, I don't think it's more information, but I think we need to streamline this process for our constituents as they're going to and from non-4D and 4D. I don't think by asking for information we really get a sign off on that, you know. I mean, I think everybody can find a federal regulation that says you can't do something for some strange reason, but that may be more of a comment. Sorry.
Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm going to piggyback on what the representative just said with regard to that funding of the 4D and the non-4D as far as the system. Because when you look at how we're funding, there is that maintenance of effort that we as a state have to put in, and then it's matched with federal. And so I'm not really certain how they would be able to delineate which was paid for, which portion was. I think you could argue that, okay, this portion is being paid by federal, and this portion is being paid by state, and it's a system that can accommodate both. I think we should know what other states are doing if they are, you know, basically imposing that wall of China in there and it's two separate. I think that we should have that information. I know that we did receive this document, the colorful document, as far as IV, or the 4D payment, the non-4D payment based by district. And I think that's helpful, but again, the bigger picture of what we're looking for is not just what's collected and distributed, but what should be collected and we're unable to distribute. And so when I look at the 4D payment and the non-4D, and I look at Miami County and Johnson County, it just makes me wonder, though, where are we as far as what's not being collected and paid out? I do think that we either one of two ways, either it's that we get additional information from DCF that really can quantify how many children, how many households, are there cases for, how many children, how many households are and aren't receiving. So that would be never received anything, in arrears partially, and are receiving payments. The other thing that I think we need is from the longitudinal standpoint, again, how many cases do we have that have not received payments in X number of months or years that are there? Are there open cases that we're counting as arrears, but those kids are already of majority? I mean, what causes a case that's been open to fall off the list? Is it once the child becomes 18, is emancipated? Is it just when the parent stops calling DCF or stops calling the hotline, whatever that might be? I appreciated that we received a copy of the document that the 6-up CSS 40 guide, but I am curious, so of the trustees, I mean, is this, when you go to court for the decision to be made on finalizing a divorce, does everyone get a copy of this? I see a finger up there, Madam Chair.
But they will be contacted as soon as the decree.
Just a second, sir. You need to speak in the microphone after you're addressed, but that's okay. Please identify yourself and then speak in the microphone.
Sir, I'm court trustee for the
Thank you.
8th District. We have, Senator, what we call a new letter that goes right out as soon as we see that decree that has the information about contacting us. If you have any questions, you're going to need to wait 30 days while we're getting the income withholding order in place to send to your ex-spouse to have them pay their child support. And ex-spouse, you've got a duty to pay by yourself until that income withholding order is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I think we also need to get some information with regard to just what are these agreements? We now know that those privatized contracts are almost $20 million. But I'm a little curious because I think it was one of the contractors did share with us, it was Young Williams, shared with us that, they were, they had exceeded that 60% this last year, but it was how they were able to intervene with the funds coming in from the federal relief. So where would they have been without that federal relief? And really, where are we from a state standpoint? As a legislator, I think we get hit up on two things. It's the constituent that needs help, and oftentimes we don't have the information, the contact information to get them directly to help. We now have this little flyer that has some phone numbers on it that we can help them with. But the other is, where are my tax dollars going? What is the return on investment? Are we spending, are we getting enough return on the almost $32 million in the CSS budget to really justify those that aren't receiving services? And so I do think that it would be important to hear back from DCF with regard to what are those clawbacks? What's really put in place? Corrective action could mean all kinds of things. It could mean, okay, well, the next 3 months your call rate needs to be a little bit better, but that doesn't help the parent, the kids, the family, the community. It doesn't help them if they're not getting those funds, if they're not getting service. And I think that's the kind of information, when we're talking about real accountability, that data is what we need to know about. What are the benchmarks that are being set by DCF? What happens if the contractor doesn't meet those benchmarks? Because there still are folks that are not happy about Maximus. I've heard from 2 of my legislative colleagues saying, again, how did that even happen without any legislative say in it? And so just, I think also DCF needs to demand of those contractors more information. I've participated, I've arranged focus groups. So to have someone with a new contract and their initial plan of action is focus groups, no, they should have already that should have been part of winning that contract is this is our plan of action. We've worked in Kansas, we know the issues of Kansas, and this is how we're going to address those issues in Kansas. And I quite frankly didn't hear that from either one of the two contractors who have worked with us. They should have been able to demonstrate, we know what Kansans need, and this is our plan of action. I don't want them to spend 3 months, 6 months, 12 months having focus groups and kind of coming up with a plan, because it's Kansans that need the help and the services now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. And I'd just like to add on one of your comments, just to make sure it's clear for staff. You know, as a business person, you know, what are the dollars that we are investing, which includes the two contractors as well as the department under DCF that is working on the child support payments, and what is our return? And that return on investment is people that are in the system that are being served and the dollars that are coming back to those families. So I want to understand that as well as we move forward. Go ahead, Senator.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I did think of one last thing, and I apologize because we have the trustees sitting here. And I appreciate that they gave us that firsthand accounting of what's happening in their areas. But part of what was suggested by DCF as a possibility was to expand to make sure that there were trustees in place in all counties. And I don't think anyone has provided us any type of information as to whether that's feasible. How can we make that happen? Before we can determine that, I think we need to know, are there folks available to even hire in these counties? Because that is a real issue as far as hiring folks. But the other thing is, what would, again, that cost be to incorporate that into our counties? And so it's one thing for DCF to say this is a possibility. In fact, I think it was their suggestion number 3. But I would be unwilling as a legislator to say, let's move that recommendation without a whole lot more information. Thank you.
Okay, Sade, could you get us I'm trying to find the sheet of the different areas that the trustees serve, a map of the different counties that they serve and a population of that regional area? I think that'd be helpful. Representative Delperding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As far as the suggestions, there was a couple of them under the top 3 that DCF brought up that I just want to hit on too, and then a few others. But identifying the meaningful performance measurements for the 4D and the non-4D programs. We need to have something set up so we know, are they meeting it, are they not? And if so, where are they really falling into this? So I'd like to see some better performance measurements set up there if we could. The second thing she hit on was just ensuring that every family is able to access a child support professional. And this may or may not run into the same thing or for what we're dealing with, but there was a time I want to say 2 years ago, I went down in Sedgwick County to, I believe it was 2600 South Oliver, the DCF building, on behalf of a constituent. Walked in there, just asked some general questions. I have never been treated so rudely in my life. Now, I had not identified myself as a legislator, but rather they had the security out there saying, go stand in this line. And I said, no, I've got a few questions and I need to know who to go to. At that point, they called an off-duty police officer out. And he abruptly said, you were told to go stand in this line. I said, okay. So I pulled out my legislative card and laid it down on the table. And I said, I'm going over to stand in that line. And you could hear them, the profanity across the room as they yelled, oh, shit, when they found out it was a legislator. And then suddenly the graffiti fell from the ceiling and I was treated like a king over there as they ushered me back for help. And I'm thinking, why am I getting good treatment when the person who really needs it is not. We've got to fix some of that issues right there. It has to. Then I get into the federal funding. There's so much here that's federal funding and rules and so forth. So where it's federal, is there not some sort of reciprocity agreements we could set up between the states, at least us and the border states, or find out what is working in the Nebraskas of the world? What are the best practices there? How do we partner up with Nebraska? So if one of the persons, we're trying to get to pay goes from here to Nebraska or vice versa, that the walls are already broke down. We can make this thing happen. It's not impossible. I understand we're crossing border lines there, but there's got to be some sort of reciprocity we could do. And then just kind of a curiosity question. I don't know who could answer this, but we had talked about the emancipation, or the child turns 18, drops out. What is the statute of limits? How long do I have to come back in order for, and if I can pick on Katie in the back of the room, I believe her daughter's already past that 18 mark. How long has she got before she can collect it? Before that just kind of falls off and into Never Never Land, and it's a thing of the past.
Forever.
Is it?
It's forever.
Okay, and that's something I just wasn't sure of, so I appreciate that.
2015, the statute has changed.
Okay.
There is no dormancy on it.
All right.
On this one, okay. Okay. thank
Okay,
you.
and-
All right.
Thank you.
We have a representative online, Representative Armberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to know a timeline of when the cases program is going, or the new cases program is going to be up and running. I can definitely say that as being an intern over there, I've had to utilize the black screen and the green text, and it is not friendly at all. And so I would be interested in when is that going to be up and running, but on top of it, how efficient is the new program going to be? Is it going to take 30 minutes to enter in something? Is it going to take 30 seconds? That kind of stuff. So if we have any information on that, that'd be wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this might have been covered before, but this state table that we received on the child support processes in other states, do we have a ranking of all these other states on the issues that were the performance measures that are listed in the IBD testimony from the Child Support Services Department? Does that make sense?
Who's your question for?
I don't know if it's for the department or who, but can we get a ranking of every state? Because we were just given states like Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa, and Colorado, and just these different performance measures on those. Can we get a ranking of all 50 states on this same table? Like, can you add one more column to this table and give us their rankings on everything? Well, I guess it would be.
We could certainly try. I think that states that were picked were from the Midwest Evaluation Group. Charday, is that something you can look at? Try to see if you can find something? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Vice Chair Humphreys.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think possibly Senator Baumgartner, covered this, but my question, just to make sure, is when we're digging in about the contracts, I'd like to know more about the contracts. How are they, how are they paid? And let's talk with my hands. And if they don't, is there a minimum benchmark still? I know it was 60%. I don't know if they still have a minimum benchmark. Do they? If they don't reach the minimum benchmark, what is the penalty? And I think we said those contracts were for 4 years, so maybe that's answered for me. But just, yeah, I'd like to know the details of the contracts with Maximus and
I believe that was in our first meeting talking about the benchmarks, but not a lot of clarity as to if you don't meet them, what happens.
Okay.
And see if that's within the contract, if we could see that.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Bowers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if you covered this, a few minutes late, apologize for that. I heard the trustees mention a better communication process of bringing back the quarterly or monthly meetings somehow to explore how everyone can be on the same page was something I heard strongly from the trustees. So I think we need to recommend that we explore, see what processes could be set up between the state agencies and the trustees.
Yes, I thank you for bringing that up. That was going to be a question I had for DCF. Where did that fall down? How can that get put back together? So we'll let DCF address that questions in our report about how that could perhaps be renewed. Thank you. Yes, Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to know more about the impact of being a pass-through or a non-pass-through state as far as TANF recovery as it has to do with child support collection.
So pass-through versus the TANF, I think it was that it.
As to how it would impact DCF, you know, budget-wise, is it doable? Is it part of a statute that we are the way we are, or is it policy? I'd just like to explore a little bit more and have a better understanding of that.
Okay, all right. Any other requests? Yes. Representative Vickers.
Victors, thank you, Senator, Chair. I don't know how this would work, but I was thinking about having some kind of, with our constituents, some kind of evaluation from them about how they're being treated or how we can hold the companies or everybody accountable. I guess like you know how like when we go to restaurants, was your service good, or did you have a good, you know, this or that? How can we do that so we can hear from?
It'd be a good thing to do with all of state government, to tell you the truth, and even legislators. But
you know, they say it's easy to get a hold of somebody and to call in and what, but. You know, how do we really know that unless we're in that situation?
Right.
So that's, I guess, I'm looking for more accountability from the input from our constituents.
I think we would start with the vice chair's recommendation about the contract itself and what their guidelines are, or what their, what do you call it? The base measurements that they need to meet. And then once we see the report, and Charday will make a note of that, how do you add some type of, what does customer service look like?
Yeah.
And maybe a customer service measurement.
Because we had somebody talk about how they tried to reach and talk to the VP, and then that was impossible. You know, just what do? You know, you're already kind of beaten down as far as going from person to person, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Like I said, when you're in that situation, and me as a new mom now, you know, these kind of things, it'd be helpful if it could go more smoothly, or if we could see something, are they being held accountable? You know, what is the constituents, what do they really have to say? Because they know the answers to all these questions, because they deal with it every day. So that's just my input. Thank you.
So another member brought up the possibility of another post audit. If you look at the one that we have, it's 25 years old. And I don't want to just throw post audits out there. I'm sure they get overly, you know, requested. But if there was a way we could just put a little sub note that if, you know, we're not able to get this information that we have requested today, that perhaps at a later time, the legislature would need to request a post audit. Instead of just doing it right off the bat, let's see if we can get some answers with the route where we're going through the report. Representative Owsley.
Well, just discussion, because I think we probably ought to do a post-audit, but let's give them a little bit of run since the contracts are brand new, maybe 6 months out or a year out. Let's just go ahead and go back and look and see if we've improved since that 1996 audit, but give them a little time to perform something to audit.
Well, and you raise a good question. So where do we want this report to go? Any specific committees? I think it would be most appropriate to the budget committees. That's where your social services issues come up. Of course, to us as a committee, or it can go to all legislators. I mean, you get a book anywhere that has all the reports in it, but trying to bring it to attention to the committees that are going to hear, so that they can earmark bringing that up when they have their hearings. Any other suggestions on that? Yes. Representative
In the
Prince.
House, we have Children and Seniors Committee. I think it ought to go there, in addition to the budget.
Is the children and seniors part of the budget? It's a separate, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that'd be fine. Yeah. Yes, Vice Chair
And Madam
Humphries.
Chair, I think in the kind of the equivalent is the Health and Human Services Committee in the Senate. I mean, those two, like if they have bills, they're the ones that do the
Have to-
conferences
Okay,
together, just,
okay,
or they have in the past, but
all right. So Health and Human Services, seniors and children on the House, and then the budget committees. Okay. Anything else to add to the report? Yes, Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was already mentioned by, I think, a couple others about the funds coming in from the stimulus payments, that might skew the data. So if we could maybe make that, separate that out, if at all possible.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Just separate those dollars. They'll be part of the total, but at least we know what they look like when they fall off. Okay. Anything else? All right, I don't see any. Sade, what do you think? Couple days you have this done? Where are we at? We're about the, second week of November. That's something you'd have out first part of December or after Thanksgiving, or what are you thinking timeline?
I think my team and I can put that together by the December timeframe. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Why don't we just say second week of December? And the committee, where I'm getting at is not so much you getting it out, but I want the committee to have, at least a week for comment after they see it. And then didn't know what your absolute deadline is, that research has to have the report done before session.
We're not sure of the official date at this time, but I know it's before session begins, so.
So that sounds like a pretty good, let's say you'll have it out by the second week of December. Committee members will have 1 week to review and get their comments back to you. All right? And then after the comments, we will send it out one more time, and you'll have a couple days to just double check any additional comments that may have been put on there. All right. Anything else to be brought before us? I want to thank the committee for all your input and your dedication to working on this and really thinking about a topic that's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, but also a difficult one as well. And I do want to thank the trustees. Very impressed for showing up and then even hanging out here with us today. And we appreciate your input and your dedication as well. And certainly want to thank DCF and the contractors for being here today. So with that, we are adjourned.